So get opened. Any adjustments anyone has? Okay, move right to public comment. Don't think there's anybody here. Okay. I don't believe so. It's not the moment. And that'll move us right into Stevensville, Jersey barriers. I'm still waiting to hear back from Lafayette. I talked to them a few weeks ago. They said to get back to me this month. And I didn't hear from them, so I called them last Thursday and said, forget, did you lose my phone number? Supposedly I'm supposed to hear this week from them, but haven't yet. So I may have to call them back again and find out. But holiday week, so it's conceivable the guy wasn't in this week, although she told me he was supposed to be. So the intent was to have them come out and look at it. I was hoping by this meeting to have done that and be able to talk about what their thoughts are. But I basically have no news other than I'm lined up to meet with the guy at some point. So I mentioned to Russ as well, and he'll hopefully try and join me when we go out there. He went out there.
What do you think of it?
Today. He goes, yep, we got some work to do. And I think he recognizes that'll be a big project. Not likely just be to pull up on it, stuff some stuff on it. It's going to be pulled apart.
Yeah, it's going to impact the road quite a bit.
Yep. Yeah, probably going to have to close the road for a period of time.
8 or 10 feet to the bottom.
Yeah, wall. Yeah, all of 8. Yep. Yeah, it was definitely over our arms outstretched. So, yep. So we'll put it on the agenda for the next time after we have a chance to talk to the Lafayette guys. So that gets us on up to the Corbett Beaver control. And I've been talking with Skip, I've met with Russ, and Russ at first was receptive. Skip was kind of like, wild, a big rock. I said, well, because when the water comes in spring, it's just going to blow it out if we don't. He goes, yeah, all right. On the backside only, don't do it on the front side. He was saying, okay, that was our plan, fill in the hole and then armor the back of it. Russ seemed to be on board.
Back, you mean upstream or downstream?
Downstream.
Yeah.
Backside of it. Russ seemed to be on board, and then, and I'll read this to you, his response to me in the note saying he wouldn't make it tonight. Okay, so I've discussed the idea about adding large rocks with the crew, and some questions have come up. First thing is, should we even be putting large rocks in the waterway? What happens if they get pushed on the bridge by large volumes of water? This would cause us more issues in the long run. If we do put larger rocks in the waterway, where is this money coming from? We do not have large rocks, and they would need to be purchased, hauled, and placed by outside vendors. Other than to hold what we have in place, why can't we wait for the beavers to return in the spring? I know I may sound negative, however, I just have a hard time doing all this work when the original plan from Skip was he was doing a complete job. In the end, I believe we should get approval from the select board before any more money is spent on this ordeal. So,
well, we wouldn't have to hire vendors to place the rock, would we?
Well, with the bucket, trying to put big rock in a certain location, he and I talked about that. That's not as easily done.
So he doesn't have a thumb on the machine.
No. Not the one he's using right now. They haven't got the new one yet. When they do get the new one, I think they're going to have a clamshell so that they could place it better. But I don't know the status on when that will be in their hands. So he was going to get, what's his name? Williamson, I think, logger in town. Has a truck with a trailer that has one of those grappling pickers that
Dennis
can't logs. Yep, and he was saying it's like $100 an hour to have him come in and do work for the town. He's had him do stuff before. Okay, that sounded good to me when we were talking, and I thought he was going to proceed along that path. As far as who was going to pay for the stone, Skip is backing out the cost of the stone when I talked to him, I don't know, a month or two ago from the total price. So we've already got 1 truckload, which at $15 a yard times 15 yards is, call it maybe $250. You figure another $250 just for the stone. So the price is being covered by him not charging us as much. If we as a town don't do it, then yeah, Skip, I guess, could hire someone to come in and put stone in place or whatever he sees fit. But my sense is we've had the discussion at the last meeting. Unfortunately, Russ wasn't able to attend, for that matter, tonight as well. So I'm a little frustrated that we can't have him here to have face-to-face discussion on how we want to proceed with this. It might make sense to just have Skip go deal with it if Russ has got a road crew and himself that are wavering on the path to go on this. I don't know.
Well,
I'm after your thoughts.
have we paid Skip everything?
Haven't paid him a thing yet.
Is he willing to do it?
Well, his package was that he would do that. Now, since then, we got into the discussion about putting the stone there and the town would bring the rock and place it and all that. And so we went down this path. And so Skip was waiting for the road crew to finish the job. And then it got blown out. So here we are talking about when's the road crew going to put in some more stone so it doesn't blow out this time. And that was our bad, I guess, having him put this kind of stone on it, which didn't hold up. I guess we thought that the Beaver Dam itself there was sufficient, that it was going to cross-link itself enough and hold itself in place, and the stone was just a little additive. But obviously we got hit with good water. That
I mean, have the Beavers even worked on the dam?
No, they haven't been
they
back.
hadn't been back. Well, my sense is this time of year they're not coming back.
I think you're headed where I was headed when I came in, but.
Which is just let it go and wait till spring, let them rebuild.
If it's their job, I guess.
So my only concern
The
about
Beaver's
that,
job or Skip's job?
Not the same.
Or both?
yeah, my concern about that is the town has contracted him to put in a fixture in an area that would be a beaver pond, not a river or a stream. And with it in its current state, that device is right in the path or just off the edge of the path of where the major water flow is going to go through there when the spring melt hits. And I'm concerned that it could damage or totally destroy that device. That would probably be on us for leaving it. And I think, knowing from my conversation with Skip, that he would come up and do something to at least protect it. And maybe that is the right answer. It's just look at Skip as saying, well, we're not getting anywhere with the road crew. They don't seem to want to participate, so you go do it. By contract,
Were we gonna get a discount because the road crew was gonna do some of this?
we were going to get discounted the price of the stone. Yeah, that's what I had negotiated with him. And I thought Russ was on board with that 3 or 4 weeks ago. And then Skip keeps tapping me with,
Well, I'm just
is
wondering.
it ready so I can come out and take a look at it and make sure the pipe's in the right place and get that all squared away? Because I think he was going to move rock to kind of hold the pipe in place. But now we're backing him into a corner because it's getting later and later in the year and getting harder to do that kind of work.
Yeah.
So I haven't been out there. Is there still some kind of a dam or a berm there to hold water, or is the water more or less just running through with
There's
minimal amount of pond behind it?
2/3 of a dam, I would say, is left there, and then a gaping hole on the.
So the hole's got to be, I mean, in addition to
The
putting
hole's
stone on the
probably
downhill side, you got to fill the hole.
3 or 4 feet wide, right down to the bottom. Just push everything out of the way.
But that would need to be filled with stone and muck and whatever.
I don't know about muck, but
Yeah, I mean, just putting stone in is, I mean, it's not going to stop the water.
putting in large enough stone in that opening isn't gonna, it'll allow it to go through it, but it's not gonna push it out of the way, is it?
No, but it may
You're
move to
concerned
the,
it might?
Depends on, I've never been there either, so I don't know how much water's going through there or anything.
Generally, not a lot of water goes through there, but when it fills up in the spring and depending on how the rains and the snow
I mean, if we're filling up the gap, what's going to keep the water from eroding around the ends?
So,
Well, it's kind of in a bank.
the ends of the berm, or just say,
It-
I'd be a
it's
little
like-
worried it's gonna get to the edge of the stone and just, and then you're left with a nice pile of stone and
yeah.
it's
so-
eroded on either
So
side.
this is the bridge opening right here, right? This is the road coming around it. Then the dam comes out across like so, and there's an opening right here, and it comes up to the road level essentially on both sides. So you've got bridge, embankment right here, dam covering 2/3-ish of it, and then a hole through it. So if that was fill the hole, armor the back of the Beaver Dam itself, and that would hold us until spring. But you're concerned that might not.
I guess I really need to look at it before I can talk. Well,
Okay.
basically, you gotta have either a stable berm with stone on the back of it, the
Mhm.
whole length, or
Yep.
probably not the whole, wash around it, the ends and stuff.
Well, I think if you stoned the downside of the berm or the dam that's still there, and then plugged the hole and
Then you've
carried
got a
the
solid
facing
wall.
stone all the way across, you'd have stone from slope to slope, from bank to bank. It would probably hold, but I think it would take more than a truckload.
Oh dear.
Uh,
Couple truckloads.
Maybe two. Because by the time you plug the hole up, you're gonna use quite a bit of stone there. Whether you'd have enough,
Yeah, I guess, all right.
I don't know.
From the bottom,
4 feet?
I guess, yeah. 4 feet. Probably 6, 8 feet thickness of that dam, I would guess. Maybe 10.
Well, right now Russ is gonna speak with the select board about it, is that it?
No, I think he's looking to us to go talk to the select board to pay for the cost of him coming in there with his guy and so forth. You know, he's got line items for contractors, he's got line items for that type of stuff, so I don't understand why he's saying to do that. That's not something we've done in the past 5 years. I don't know what to do with that, other than it just sounds like he doesn't want any part of it, and if he doesn't want any part of it, then I guess we can say fine, and
So I guess
Keep
the
the road
recommendation could be that we think it needs to be larger stone that covers the downstream side, bank to bank.
Mhm.
Who pays for that is not our decision, I guess.
yeah, and I said, I can go to Skip and say, not getting any over the road foreman. So it's on you to figure out how to retain this and
Well, I
protect
mean,
the
that means
device.
he's gonna have to hire a contractor then
Or
to truck it and to set it, place it.
maybe he chooses to move the device out of harm's way for this winter and wait for Beaver to come back in spring and fill the dam. When the dam's in place, they'll move it back in place. I just think where it's currently located is right. The water kind of comes this way and then bends over, and I can envision
Well,
how
it'd be
that
worth, definitely be worth asking him what he thought about the idea of leaving it there for the winter with that sluice way.
He's not keen about that.
Pardon me?
He's not keen about that. I've
He's
already
not,
talked to
oh,
him.
you have talked to him?
Oh, yeah.
Wonder how difficult it would be to move that device.
Don't know.
It's probably pretty heavy with
Oh, I'm
all
sure it
that
is.
steel mesh on it.
I'm sure it is.
Jeez.
I don't
Maybe
know
we
how
need to
well
go to
we
the
can.
select board and say, look, we've put a lot of money into this already. We'd hate to see it all ruined by a spring runoff.
Right.
And will you please direct the road crew to do it?
Let me take, I'll go talk to Skip, get his thoughts that now that I know the road crew is not real keen on this without going back and forth to the select board. By the time we go to the select board and back, you're gonna be in January, so, getting onto the timing for their meetings and,
It's not the best time to be working out there.
No, it certainly isn't.
no. And he's gonna be in hip waders, having to try and yank that thing aside. The only other thing I can think of is to tie a cable off to it and drag it off to the side with a truck or piece of machinery.
What, that cage?
Yeah.
That'll ruin it.
Yeah, it's pretty rugged cage, but I hear
When
you.
you unearth it from the bottom.
That's the question, is I don't know how he's got it into the bottom. I don't know if he's got posts into the muck and then it's screwed into those posts, and if he
Yeah, I don't
undoes
know.
those and we can pull it, I don't know. So let me at least call him and say, okay, so it looks like we're not getting support from the road crew. As such, that leaves us looking at it the way it is, unless you have some concept for how you would want to plug that. If you don't feel you got a good shot at that, given the timing, then is it stable where it is? Do we have to do anything? And have them take it from there.
Yeah.
But my guess is this is gonna be more than Skip's gonna cover.
I don't know.
Yeah, that
Well,
was my first reaction too.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think
He,
this
he
is
might
gonna be,
respond back going, you backed me in December and you tell me now I gotta go resurrect something. And
Yeah, that's what that would be
Yeah.
my
no, but
reaction.
just the stone, I mean,
he said he was gonna bring a bunch of large stones.
yeah, I'm not sure is
I don't think he was planning on that.
I don't think so.
the grapple
He'd
with
have
the,
to hire
on the
someone to
log
come in and do
trucks.
that.
I mean, even purchasing and hiring somebody, that's in his contract.
Well, his contract is to put,
Yeah, but the contract didn't have a clause in, I don't think the contract anticipated that the runoff we had was gonna wash half of the remaining dam away.
Right.
That sort of changes the picture in terms of his responsibility and the way I look at it.
I would think so too. I don't know how he'll respond to that. He might say, no, this is my life and I deal with this, maybe. On the other hand, you might go, no, that's Mother Nature and things have changed and looking at you guys to cover this aspect of it. If that seems more like
Yeah,
realistic.
I'm pretty
then-
sure that's where it's gonna go.
I mean, stoning it is insurance to protect the investment that the town's already made in hiring him to begin with, right?
That's my take, yeah. Yeah, that we're trying to protect an asset that we haven't yet paid for, because we haven't been invoiced for it, but we have a contract that he's going to do the work and invoice us for it. When he's all done, his terminology for all done is after the dam's in place and I've got the pipe set up and everything looks the way I want it,
Right.
then we're good and I'll send you bill. And we haven't been able to get to that point because,
There's a hole in the name.
yeah. And we've been going back and forth between the road crew and Skip and me and
I think it's gonna be closer to 2,500 than 250.
well, I was just doing the math on $15 a yard, 15-yard truckload, 2 truckloads.
But if, I
$500
mean, if this guy's putting it out there with a grapple and placing the stones,
$100 an hour, afternoon to place a truckload of stone.
I mean, it'd be nice to get a layer of it that's well graded and not just stones.
Just like, yeah,
You know, you don't want it to look like your patio walkway where if there's soil in between, that soil's, if the water does come over, the soil's gonna wash
yeah.
and the rocks are just gonna roll down.
So then here's another thought. The original thought process that we once talked about, and I think you were involved in this, Mike, was we use the old Corbett waste blocks and we build a dam on the waste blocks right there.
I wasn't in on that.
Because we still have a number of those up at the Beartown Pit. We got into, maybe we don't want to do that because reaching out with our excavator would not work because we couldn't handle that weight that far out. But I don't know how much a logging truck can pick up. I know we can pick up some pretty heavy logs.
Yeah,
So,
but I don't think it would want to handle one of those way out on the end of its boom either.
yeah, I don't know.
They're pretty darn heavy, aren't they? About 5,000 pounds, those waste blocks.
I don't know what size ones we use, but we've got bigger ones and smaller ones.
The logging truck's gonna have less capacity than an excavator to do that, so.
And, I mean, what's the material underneath there that you're setting those blocks on?
Muck.
You know, right, so you get
That was why we ended up not doing that.
2 blocks
because we
high,
couldn't-
and is it gonna just fall over under the weight of itself
That's a
after
road
a
that's
year or two?
Gone by already.
We're past that, saying, give me where we're at today. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think the first step is to go over the problem with Skip and see what his reaction is. I mean, if he could abide it, I'd say leave it alone until spring and then let the Beavers come back and do their thing. You know, it probably means resetting that blue pipe, but that's no big deal.
Yeah.
As long as he feels the cage would stay in place.
Because what's gonna happen is the rest of that dam is getting pushed open, right?
It probably will.
It's just gonna feel its way down through the whole thing.
That's probably true.
So then that's gonna open that whole cage up to the flow coming through there. Pretty wide area, so it's not like it's gonna be a.
It's not gonna be a rushing torrent, but no.
No.
I'd definitely go over that scenario with him.
All right. We'll do that. Okay, next one was with large culvert inspections. I had hoped to get out there and finish the few that Mike and I didn't get to. That's what this list is here. I didn't, there's still a handful of locations that we haven't finished up, but we get, I don't know, 80–90% of what's on this list. There are a few that have been removed from the list because when we went in there, there were numbers like 6 and 8. We weren't sure if it was inches or feet. Turned out they were inches, so I removed them off of this list because we said, let's look at the 48-inch and bigger stuff. There's a couple of smaller ones in here because we happen to notice things about them, but for the most part, they're a good 4 feet or bigger. And the net out of it is most of them are in pretty good shape. There are some that we downgraded. There's from what they were last reported as. And unfortunately, I don't have dates for when they were last inspected. Maybe Brad does and can show me how to look that up on the spreadsheet, but I didn't notice anything that said when these inspections were last time. But anyway, ours, the 2023 conditions are what we deem them to be at this point in time. So it basically leaves what? There's one up on Mountain that we got to go take a look at, and I think it was just the wing wall that we, the one that's at 256 Mountain. There's 2 at that location. There's one that's on the state side of the gate, and there's one that's on the town side of the gate. And we're going to ask the state who owns it. Ask Brad who owns which one there. Maybe we own them all the way up through. I'm not sure, but need to find that out. There's also one on Irish Settlement 677, about 10 down or so. 677 we think is Cambridge, therefore it shouldn't be on the Underhill listing. So I got to talk to Brad about confirming that on his end, and if so, then remove that. It's listed as fair, but that's a brand new bridge in there. It's the one we're thinking of. And then there's the one on Page that we rated basically almost poor, that needs attention sometime in the next couple of years, like what we did to North Underhill Station, Poker Hill, but it's a much smaller pipe. It's only 30 feet long, and it's half the diameter of the ones that we just repaired. Then there's one on Range that technically isn't a large pipe. It's only 36 inches, but we happened to see that one, and when we looked at it, it was deemed to be in poor shape, to the point of being plugged, I think, from what I recall you saying on the one end.
Is that the one that goes way out across? Yeah.
Back
Brad has some history on that.
I mentioned to him, and he didn't seem to
Really?
know about that one. So I mentioned it to Russ as well, and he was going to take a look at it. From our perspective, I don't think it belongs on our list of pipes that we're worried about expensive.
Yeah.
It's only a 3-footer, and that's probably
I would
not.
agree with that. We got enough on our
Yep,
plate.
I think so. But I had it on here. I was going to bring it up and have it put in front of Russ to take a look at it. And then down at the end, there's one on Stevensville, which is also a 3-footer.
Was that the stone one? Or you,
Yes.
I'm getting, I can't quite
Yes,
see.
it is. But it's a deep, that's the one that was in terrible.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's the stone box.
It's up with one driveway, 2 driveways to seasonal homes after it. And it's, we think about a 3-foot stone. I presume it's all stone. I don't think there's a pipe in there. I think it's just all
Oh yeah,
stone.
it's an old stone box. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty well collapsed too.
It looks like it's non-functional.
And that's not a class 4 section?
It is.
Okay.
So that's why the issue of who goes after that. So it's down a bit and probably should be down a lot more in terms of depth on the downstream side of it.
Yeah, so big drop to the
It's
bottom of the ravine.
Yeah, 10 feet anyway.
It's kind of,
maybe
it's
more.
not really a drop like a pipe sticking out in midair, but it comes out at a reasonable grade, the culvert does, and then it drops real steep before the ravine continues at a more modest grade. So you'd think that a new pipe that was put in there would be laid at a lot steeper angle.
Yeah. So if it's a 3-foot pipe that goes in there and not bigger, then maybe that's just part of the general road crew stuff. But if it's going to end up being a bigger pipe because we size the watershed such that it says it's more than 3 feet, then maybe it falls in this category. So got a little more work to do.
Is Russ looked at that one?
I told him about it. But I don't think it's okay.
Is the town responsible for structures on class 4? Or is that to be determined?
So I think on that specific location, it's going to be determined. That road gets obviously a lot of access for people going up to the hiking trails. Class 4 roads in town that don't get a lot of use by more than a couple of people don't tend to have town support other than you can come to the town and say, hey, I want to do some work on the road and go do it. In this case, given it's a state park up there that people are accessing, the state may choose to step in and say, yep, we need to take care of this. I don't know. I think we're in a unique situation in town that we haven't dealt with.
I wouldn't.
It is class 4 road, so in some respects,
I think that's the designation, is class 4, it doesn't matter how many people use it. So I mean, if you can say, well, you can't
Right.
pick and choose which ones you want to
yeah.
fix.
No, I'm just saying class
Unless
4
you want to
road.
fix all of them.
Class 4 road
Yeah,
typically
yeah.
doesn't get a lot of traffic.
Well, that accesses state land beyond those homes. So.
Yep.
Maybe put a little note out to the state that says, and maybe it doesn't come from us, maybe it comes from the select board. But
That's
we've
what I was thinking.
identified this culvert on a section of class 4 road that we don't maintain.
Yep.
Your land is going to be inaccessible if this culvert fails. You may want to take a look at it
Yep.
and consider replacing it.
Good approach. If you say, do you want us to fix it or do you want it?
Which way would they go?
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know how, maybe it's not up to us to even consider which way to do it other than it's class 4 road and the state is the major user of that end of that class 4 road. So if they're interested in making that pipe functional, that's something for them to take a look into. They may throw it back at us. I don't know. We certainly had that happen on other class 4 roads. But certainly that one was in very rough shape in our opinion. And the last one is on Upper English Settlement. Again, a good sized pipe, 60 by 84, but only 30 feet long. And excuse me, I'm reading one line off. It's 120 by 200 feet, so it's a large pipe. No, I'm sorry.
Nope.
60
Down,
by
yeah.
84. That was correct in the first place. 30 foot long, and it is in somewhere between fair and poor condition. But because it's
Which one are you?
the second.
Oh, I
117.
ticked off another one. Yeah, okay, fair.
Yeah, I was getting confused and looking at.
I was looking at
45.
Timber Ridge, yeah.
Nope,
I mean, it's not
it's the second of the Upper English Settlement ones.
60 by 84 now because it's squashed down from 60 by 96.
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, we put a tape on it and we got 7 feet, not 8, but
And
it
is it-
might have been 8 feet at one point in time. And it
Is
could
that
have
height?
filled in some, it could have pushed up, sunk.
No, the 60 is the
Width
height.
or height?
And
Excuse me, yes, 84 is the width.
Okay, well, it wouldn't have gone that way.
No.
Would have gotten,
wider, if anything.
okay.
You would think. We found some of these measurements to be a bit
Pretty-
different than what we came up
Yeah,
with,
for
so
sure.
I don't know how accurate
Right. Somebody might not have wanted to get wet last time if you.
could be. Yeah. So the net is, most of them are in pretty good shape, or some that need some attention, and I think we felt the ones that are in poor shape, with the exception of the class 4 road, Stevensville one, could be treated like we did the ones up at North Underhill and Poker. They're in the 10-year outlook. I kind of gave them an estimate based on those sizes relative to what it cost us to do the other ones. I just scaled them and threw a number of that sort of into the
Another
10-year
placeholder.
outlook.
So all the poor ones on here, fair to poor,
Mhm.
low ones are all ones that relining the invert would buy him another.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, great.
I forgot where it was now, but there was one pipe we looked at. I think somebody told us that it had been relocated there.
That's the one up on,
Over on Poker Hill when we had a huge flood about 20 years ago. That thing is gigantic.
was that the one on Poker or that's the one on Upper English?
I think
One on Upper English.
it wasn't Poker because
Went up Poker, then over to Upper English.
I think so. Is that
It's the
where
one
it
right
was?
above 117 that we're
It was
talking about,
huge, though.
145. Yeah, it's 200 inches across.
Something like
There's
that.
like a
Yeah.
18-foot pipe or
Well, if we
something.
had to replace that, that would be expensive.
Oh my gosh, yes. The bottom of that one looked pretty good,
Yeah.
and the pipe is a squash pipe, but it's not this way. It's kind of.
It's like it's the way it was set. I almost
Right.
think it must have been brought up there in one piece. Well,
Set.
not in
Brad-
one
Brad
piece,
knows.
but without disassembling the whole pipe.
Brad knows, he's the one who told me about it, because it came out of Stevensville where the bridge is down by the town pond.
Oh, okay.
That's where it originally was.
I misunderstood where it came from, but yeah.
And I guess it got washed out around or something, so they take it out, put the bridge in, and then they reused it up there. That's what Brad was saying. Supposed history on it. So I think from a large culvert inspection, other than the handful that I gotta go look at, hopefully they're all in pretty reasonable shape. That it's not a train wreck by any definition, but there's some work and some money to be spent over the next few years, 7 or 8 years, before we go after some of the other ones on there. So I thought, in summary, it was kind of a good use of our time going out looking at, must have been pretty close to 50 pipes or so, all the largest ones in town, and only finding maybe 10% or so of them to be in condition that needed help, and not necessarily immediately, other than the one on Stevensville. Most of them, I think, next year maybe, but probably in 2 or 3 years are fine. And there's a couple, I think, that we said maybe out in the 8 to 10 year range would be about the right time to go after them. So we'll spread it out over that amount of time. Okay, next one was English settlement rebuild. So Russ and I had a interesting discussion about that. He had learned from, I was talking to him about the project that we've done in Irish Poker and how there's a section of English settlement that we're going to do a similar job on. He threw out this concept that he'd learned from, I won't say the Highgate road foreman. Apparently they've done things, and maybe you've done this before in your travels, where you take a road and you dig a ditch down the center of the road, you lay drainage pipe, and then you daylight it every so often. You heard of that?
Yeah, it's called Underhill.
And what's your sense? Is it effective or is it a waste of time?
It's not gonna fix your road. It's not a magic fix.
Okay. It'll help maybe.
My opinion, I guess.
Okay.
Well, it gets rid of water, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you still have.
But if
poor
the
soil,
base is
But
shit, then
if your silt is filled it in at the daylight areas, it'll be fine, but 2 or 3 feet further, it's gonna be a mess.
It's not gonna fix if you have a poor surface, it's not gonna fix that.
Okay.
That's a function of poor materials.
So you gotta have material that will allow you to get the water to that drain and then out to daylight. And that's not gonna happen if we got a 20-foot wide road that's mush. Okay.
that's like we took the topping material from our Irish settlement and we
Yeah.
spread it on New
It's a
Road,
mess.
and now New Road is shit. You know, it goes, excuse me, Mr. Tape.
Not
It
good.
go, yeah, Fuller Road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now Fuller Road gets all messy. So, I mean, that material just should have been discarded, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, no, that was lesson learned from that, but bad idea.
Underdrain's a good idea. I mean, I've used it under reconstructed roads. to get the water out.
Yeah. On a new road, putting that in there to keep the water out and help get rid of it. But to try and do it on something that's as far gone as this, you're saying too little, too late. Okay. So that gets us back to the rebuild side of it. Timing wise, we're getting close to the point where we wanted to start pulling the trigger on that. So
I mean, in Highgate, they may have been down so far that by the time they backfilled that trench, they had all decent material in there, but
don't know. He didn't have specifics about what kind of road, was it something like the,
I mean, the best part about the rebuild is that layer of stone that goes in. That's what keeps the water out from you.
the first layer of crushed stone, yeah.
I've never really run across running the under drain up the middle like that.
Yeah,
Well, I have in one situation in Richmond, but that was very unique.
he'd heard the idea, and it sounded like the road foreman thought did a good job of alleviating the problem they were having on some stretch of road that was.
Well, maybe they just had a real water problem, you know?
My
So
guess
which
is it
section
was-
of English are we talking about here? There's been discussion over the years, I mean years now, about us rebuilding some section of it, and we even have a pile of gravel at the bottom,
Yeah.
or we did at least at one point. Still there. It was dedicated to that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking it was pretty far up toward the top.
Yeah, from Tupper Road back.
Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Same section?
Yeah, and the last time we talked about it, we said, put it out to contract like we did Poker and our settlement and get bids on it and do the same thing we did there. Fabric, stone,
Mm-hmm.
under drain, gravel.
Yep.
So when Russ mentioned this, I thought I'd put it past you guys, see what your thoughts are. Sounds like we should stay the course and keep this on the plan the way we had it before. So to do that, then the last time we hired Tyler to work up plans and do the engineering for us. Presume you guys still think he's capable and right guy to go do something like this, in which case we should throw some dollars into the budget for fiscal year 25 to get that work done. So fiscal year 26, we can put it out to bid and get the job pulled off, assuming it still fits in our outlook, which probably does.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me.
I don't recall how much we paid him to do the work on Irish or Poker. Probably have the records somewhere.
Well, he'll have to come look at it and give us a quote
Yeah.
anyway.
And maybe that's what we should do is get that. And I do remember when Nate was last year that we had a conversation about, he's thrown a lot of stone at that road. So some places had firmed up. My guess is there are some places that haven't firmed up. So we might have a mishmash of things going on up there.
Be hard to justify though, if you had, let's say you had 3,000 feet you wanted to fix.
Mhm.
It would be hard, in my mind, it would be hard to justify digging
Pieces and
a couple hundred feet and then there's some stone, so you leave that and then you go above that and you do some more. I mean, we ought to just
take it all the way
do
through.
it.
That was my thought on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it's gotten better because he's throwing stone in it, so it's not terrible, but it's, sometimes it is terrible, sometimes it isn't terrible. My sense is that's what we've got right now. Because we've had history on this for, gosh, a decade anyway, since like you were involved in the original quantification of how much that would cost to do that. That goes back to like 2013, 14 time.
14, I think.
So if it goes back that far, my sense is just throwing stone at it isn't gonna fix the problem that we're just talking about, where it gets silted in. It's still gonna be there. Okay. And that gets us to the outlook. So let's just skip to the equipment page. I'll update you on what Russ gave me for updates on that. And I still need to ask him some more questions because as I was putting these in here, then I realized that he maybe asked all the questions I should have on regarding which grade goes where and so forth. I'll do my best to try and explain what the process he was thinking about doing. And as I understand, that's proven to do. There is a off-lease truck came out of Chelsea, 3 years old. It's a 21 vintage international tandem that we have required approval to go lease that. And the idea is to get that in there now. to get the 15 Nate's old truck off the road. That truck has already been approved to be replaced for the fiscal year 25 budget, which is what that gray section is, or yellow section if you printed it in color, is indicating. So when the 25 truck comes in to replace what now is the 21 truck required from Chelsea, then we have the option to, at the end of that lease, buy it. And at the end of that lease, it would be 40K. If it's in good shape and been a good truck, then Russ's intent would be to buy it for the 40K and replace the 08, which is obviously getting long in the tooth. So the 21 comes in under the replace the 15, then slides over and becomes the replacement for the 08.
Oh, yeah.
And then the 2015 replacement is a new truck.
Oh, starting the following year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the
Payments.
payments start
Yeah,
to follow.
yeah.
The truck would arrive fiscal year 25, but
So
the
a
loan
new
would
truck
come due the next year.
A new truck costs 5 years of 60 grand
Per year.
versus
At
buying this.
5% interest rates and
Yeah.
5-year loans.
Yeah.
It was estimated to be 280. I took off 20K for using the 08 as the, and this is the part I need to go ask some details, using the 08 as a trade-in for the purchase of that new truck. And I just got to confirm that's what its planning would be, that we'd trade in the 08, get maybe 20K for it to take off of the full fair price.
What's the lease payments on that 2021, dude?
14K
Total?
per year. Over 3 years. It's going to be almost 45K, thereabouts, not quite 40K, plus interest, so maybe it's 45K with the interest on it.
I'm missing the 3 years.
Yeah, I am too. I think the intent was we took it and we're going to lease it for up to 3 years and make payments yearly. And then at the end of that period of time, it would be worth 40K. But if it's not 3 years, then this 40K might be 50K or 60K.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, let's start getting all these trucks.
I need to talk to Russ more because as I started to lay this in here after we talked, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like it lines up quite right. It doesn't seem like 3 years. So I just need to get back with him and understand how it is so I can document it straightforward on this. The other items haven't changed. The 18 dump truck, the F-350, the 22, the 23, those columns are all the same. The excavator, as far as I know, they are still in the process of selecting what buckets and clamshells. And
Which machine are they getting?
He didn't say. I don't think they've decided yet. They're still going back.
Shit, somebody pulled the trigger on that thing.
It was down to a case and a Sandy, and then who else entered the picture?
Case.
Hyundai, I think, entered the picture.
It was Case and
It was Case and
Sandy
Sandy,
before.
and Case was what Dwayne was looking to get because he thought it was a better machine, and it is from what I can gather. But it was considerably more expensive. And then somewhere along the line, Hyundai came into the picture and is somewhere in between Case and Sandy and a good machine. So I don't know. I was not versed by Russ on that. And then the mowing machine, I brought that up to his attention that a while back. They've been brought up by the select board that there might be an interest in trying to get a mowing machine. Then it kind of got pushed off the table. Nate really wasn't supportive of the idea of getting a mowing machine. So I put it in front of Russ and asked him what his thoughts were on it. And he said, well, there's a lot we could do if we had a tractor with rakes that could mow, blow leaves off roads. It's kind of stuff pretty good. So I said, well, all right. I think originally I had 150K in there. That was before all the inflation took off. So I threw a number out there closer to 200K and did the math on 5 years of that. And that's what you see there. So he's going to go back and think about it. It's out there a couple of years, so it's not like it's a definite at this point. It's go look and see what you think is or is not an opportunity for the town to move on this. So I've got it out there as a placeholder. Highway infrastructure, the only changes are the ones that we've just talked about with the large culverts, where I've got in a couple of years where we did repairs to the page 29, the Upper English 117, do those in the same year. I estimated that to be 30K. And I think I've got that on, year 26? So not this coming fiscal year, but the one after that.
You got a bunch of roads noted up at the top of the column.
So there's New Road,
Yeah,
which we haven't finalized on. Then there's page 29, Upper English 117, and then Upper English 145, which I put down. That's the big pipe that came out of Stevensville.
so what's the 30 represent? Which culvert, or is?
Both 29 and 117 combined.
Okay. Is that
Again, they're half the length of the ones we just did.
Yeah,
The ones we just did were 70 combined, so
Yeah.
35 each.
yeah,
And those were, 10-foot pipes?
Yeah, I guess
and
so.
60 feet long.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I did the math on it, it came out to
okay,
30-ish. And I think
yeah, okay.
30, I threw an extra 5 into it from 25 to get it to 30. Just as he's got to move equipment around from Page to Upper English, which is a little bit of transiting. And he wouldn't be able to afford it all at the same time necessarily, although he might be able to, depending on how that worked out.
So then you got 80 there for what, UE 145?
Yep. That might be high. I don't know. It was 70 for both of those pipes, but that's out there in 20, 30, 31. So after factoring in some inflation, the number.
Chances are it's not high.
Yeah.
Given the way things have been going, you're probably right. So I was erring that way, throwing a fair amount of inflation at it. So the only thing that this page kind of makes me think about needing to consider is if we're going to pull a trigger in fiscal year 26 to do Bridge 7 English Settlement Road, and then tie those two both into the same 20-year bond, make life easier for the finance folks in town. Then if you back up a year from that, that'd be fiscal year 25, which is what we're looking at trying to budget for. For Bridge 7, we're pretty much done all the work necessary other than the permitting piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's going to be some amount of cost to have Tyler or Cricket take care of the Army Corps permits and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get the sense that was a huge amount of coin, 5,000 or less would be my sense on that. With English Settlement, again, I'd have to go back and look at what Tyler charged us to do, like Irish or Poker, but one of those stretches, and see what that charge was, and assume he's got inflation that's gone into it since that timing, and use that as a figure. I could
You
also
think the
give him a
lengths
call.
are similar? The English versus the Irish we did, for instance?
English is going to be, I think we said 3/4 mile. Irish was,
I think, for some reason,
From Craig's
3,600 feet is coming into my, 3,600 feet comes to my mind, but I don't know.
on English,
No, on
on
Irish,
Irish, what about you?
but I'm not sure of that. I don't know why. I think that's the number, but.
Yeah, so I was going to go look at that and scale what the other options are. Just give Tyler a call.
That'd be quicker.
This time of year, if he can't just come out and give us a estimate for what we should budget for that.
Because I think you'd want to do that anyway, regardless of if you
Well,
did
just,
the comparison thing, I mean.
and it's been a while, right? It's a different road. And it's, so, yep, okay, I'll ask him to do that. I don't think we need engineering on page 29 and Upper English 117. Those are pretty small pipes. I think just having Don come out, take a look at it and say, yeah, okay, give us an estimate for it. Not this year, but next year, so we can put it into the budget for the following year. I think that would probably work fine.
So the one on Poker Hill, or North Underhill Station, Poker Hill, it was the fish question, does that need to be,
Bernie will have to, I'll contact him, I did the last time, and ask him about those locations as well.
and he was okay with it?
He was okay with it on those 60-foot pipes. These are 30s. We didn't have to use fish ladders on them, so given these are smaller and shorter.
Right, no, so nobody was looking at it as an emergency or a temporary fix, they were looking at it as, it's gonna be there for another 20 years or more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I wanted to get Bernie anyway to have him just take a look at him. He lives right down the street from him, so I was just gonna say, so this is what we got. Any commentary, and just go from there.
Well.
And then paving, the last page of this. No real changes other than, as we saw at the meeting that Russ was at the last time, we blocked Pleasant Valley and Irish Settlement because he's still got more work to do on Pleasant Valley before it's ready to get paved. So those numbers still hold. You may have noticed that, I don't know if you guys printed it. If you did, I can pull it up here. There's a page that I added because at Jen Sophie's request, she was looking for what did fiscal year 22 paving look like in detail. So I took the bill from Whitcomb, which didn't really break it all out into pieces, but he gave us apron costs, he gave us shoulder gravel and so forth. So I broke all those out into categories, and then to the best of our ability to say the road's this long, this wide, using the equation, I went through the math and created what the asphalt cost was, added in the price adjustment that took it from 8170 to 9170. So we got an asphalt price, added in the shoulder gravel, and then we also lumped into the paving, all the center line, fog line stuff, and so I threw that in there and eventually came out with the individual lines you see for each of the roads. And Jen wants to keep track of, and Cambridge does this, and so she liked the idea of it, so she wants to keep track of, in her records, how much we're spending on each of the roads. This is the historical. So it seemed like a good idea, and when we have cases where we do multiple roads in a year, I think I'll just add a tab in here, break it out so that this costs for this one, that's cost for that, instead of just here's the bill for the whole thing.
Yeah.
This one was a little more convoluted just because we did a lot of different things in that 1 year that was spanning 2 years worth of paving. So that's what that page was added in there for. So when you do all that, that takes you to the summary page. And as you can see, there are some years with some good size numbers. Again, I got the mowing machine included in this, but you can see this current year that we're in, fiscal year 24, we were targeting 420, we came in at 595. Most of that overage is because we banked the 2 years paving. Instead of splitting it 50-50, we threw the amount that we had planned for into fiscal year 23 and all the rest in fiscal year 24, which kind of broke the bank because that was a good 350K. So that's what drives a good portion of that. The next year is up by 50K, the following year is up by 100, then we're up by 130, 120, 130, not 120-ish. So as you can see, we're up a good 50 to 100K for a handful of years before it comes back down.
Well, it doesn't get back down till 31.
Yeah, some of that's the mowing machine, right? That's
Some of that's what?
the mowing machine.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
close to 50K a year for 5 years, and I think I have
When did
that.
that start?
I think that's starting 2027.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried printing these things out with the grid lines in
I can
them?
do that. You want me to put grid
I
line?
don't know, it's awful hard to,
Yeah.
when you get to the right of the page, you almost
I
need a
agree.
piece of paper to,
Add grid lines. Mike, no problem.
maybe that becomes too busy, I don't know.
Well, sometimes it can be, but I'll do it and look at
Do
it.
a trial and see if you think
Send
it
it out
makes
to you
it
guys
better.
and see if you think it. If I agree, I get on these pages and you have to kind of do this stuff follow up, so it's easy enough to do.
So we went, no, I forgot what we, 2027, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so there, okay, yeah.
So there's some pricey years in there. 100K being over the amount that we're figuring is, oh, what's that? 50K is 2%, 100K would be 4%. On the.
4 cents on the,
4% on the municipal budget.
oh, okay, yeah.
So noticeable, but it's not like it's.
Not outlandish. I mean, I think it was last town meeting, didn't you stand up and suggest an extra 100,000?
Yes.
And people didn't squawk, nobody questioned it, we just voted and bingo, it passed.
Yeah, and apparently I thought I had done that in a fashion that was add 100K to go into the highway reserve. Pretty sure we talked about that, but Jen said she went back and looked at the video and said, apparently we didn't say put it in reserve, just to add it to the budget. So she and I are going back and forth on that one, trying to figure out how to resolve that and whether or not you can, through a floor vote, put money into a reserve. So working with the OCD to get through all that.
Does anybody have any idea do you know what we spend per year for the mowing contract?
Last I saw, I thought it was in the 15, 20K range. I'd have to,
Really?
yeah, 16, 17 strikes me as the number that we were paying.
I don't remember the number, but I remember we talked about this before. Nate
Oh, yeah.
knew that number, and he said,
Doesn't,
Why would we buy a
why
machine?
would you buy a machine that is now gonna have to have a shed to put it in
And maintenance,
and
Yeah.
maintenance?
Oh,
Right.
Someone to
fuel,
run it.
and an operator to
Yep.
run it.
I hear
Still doesn't seem to make sense to me, but
you. I don't disagree, but if you say there's other capability that you can add to the town by having it, such as the
haul
ability.
sand, plow snow.
Dig ditches.
Fine. It's not our call.
Well,
I
what
know.
else can you do with it? You said something about blow leaves. What the heck?
He was saying as town
You wanna
foreman
drive
in
the taxi,
Doctor
blow
that
the
they
leaves.
have a blower set up on their tractor and they go through and that way they don't churn all the leaves into the,
Must be a hell of a blower.
actually it is. What else did he say you do with it?
It's gonna piss off some people with lawns. but-
Yeah.
Well, my house blowing much stand, yeah, I heard it. There are a couple other things he mentioned it could be useful for. And I don't recall exactly what they were. But we talked about more than just that. So he was gonna go back and chew on it.
Well, that's down the road a little ways.
I told him I'd throw the numbers on a column, they could see these and subtract 50K roughly per year, 5 years. You don't want to have it.
Where do these target grand totals come from?
So the target line was just, goes back to like 2017, we started doing this. This was for the previous 3 years, how much we were spending on capital improvements in town. So we took that 3-year average and said, okay,
And
let's
started
start there.
inflating it. Yeah.
Increment it up using a number for inflation and go from there.
Maybe, I mean, given all that we have to do, given all the work there is to do, yeah, maybe it's just not reasonable to try to hit those target numbers.
Again, those target numbers are just arbitrarily.
They are kind of
Here's where they
arbitrary.
started from, and then we
Yeah.
set them as trying to manage tax rate and so forth. But, and I think we even said in 24, when it bumped up quite a bit, there wasn't much we could do about that because the cost of fuel had gone up and inflation had hit us. So when it came to paving roads, what we were estimating and what it actually came out to be were different numbers because inflation caught up to us. So the new world is at a different point than when we first started back in 2017, trying to gradually move things. It's kind of step function. A lot of that inflation in just 1 year.
Yep.
And what you're saying, from what I can gather, is it's a step function that keeps on giving because it's continuing to go up from where it took a big leap and it's still.
Yeah, and it's 2 graphs that continue up, yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't, what you're seeing is it hasn't flatlined or even headed back down towards where it used to be. It's just continuing to go up. scary, but yeah. So yeah, that may be a column that I look at and have that discussion with the select board when I review this with them. Maybe we need to readjust those target lines.
When are you hoping to have this finalized for them?
If you guys are all set with the way this looks, then I'll pump it over to Brad and say, get me on the agenda sometime in December. I'll just review it with him then.
Yeah.
And then budgetarily, I'll get estimates from Tyler for Bridge 7, English settlement. That's one other thing I was thinking we had to consider for engineering effort. Nothing on the large culverts. There wasn't anything.
Well, unless you were thinking of engineering that stone
Steve-
box up on
Stevensville,
Stevensville,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's, I'd say keep that out of the picture.
I'll find out from Lafayette what their thoughts are on it.
Oh, up here.
Yeah, that's just a.
I meant the stone box way at the end of.
Oh yeah, no, that's correct. That's another day.
Okay.
All righty, and if there's nothing else that we need to discuss, we'll adjourn other than next meeting, February 18th, work for everybody.
I think so. Geez, I'm training myself to use my calendar. I can tell you if it works.
And I know we've had a history in the past of, that's only a week before Christmas. If there's nothing imminent that we got to get onto, then we might just call that meeting a wrap and move on to January and get back at it. So if it doesn't look like there's anything that's pressing that we need to respond to after I meet with the select board, then perhaps I'll send you out another thing. Have a happy holiday and we'll be back in the new year.